I have always regarded China as a neighbor, a good neighbor, and also as a very big market for whatever it is that we produce. So Malaysia is a trading nation.
Yeah.
We need markets. We can't quarrel with such a big market as China.
There's this perception, though it's been 40 days since you took over power. People are still wondering about your views on China. Would it be unfair to say that you are perceived as anti-China? Is that an unfair perception?
No, there are certain things, of course, which were done, which was not to Malaysia's advantage or even good for Malaysia. We welcome foreign direct investment from anywhere, certainly from China. But when it involves giving contracts to China, borrowing huge sums of money from China, and the contract goes to China, and China contractors prefer to use their own workers from China, use everything imported from China. And even the payment is not made here, it's made in China. So we gain nothing at all. That kind of contract is not something that I welcome. The other thing is that they develop whole cities, very sophisticated cities, very expensive cities, which Malaysians cannot buy. So they are going to bring foreigners to live in those cities. Now, no country in the world will accept a lot of immigrants coming into the country. I'm against, even if it is from India or from Arab countries or from Europe, foreign immigrants in huge numbers, nobody welcomes, and certainly not Malaysia. That is not what we want.
So, Tun, under your leadership, what specific foreign Chinese investments would you welcome, taking off from your talks with Mr. Jack Ma?
Well, certainly what Mr. Jack Ma was saying is the kind of Chinese investment we want. And we welcome investment, foreign investment from any country, so long as they bring in the capital, they bring in the technology, they set up plants here, and they employ Malaysians from workers to engineers, and they produce goods for the domestic market and for export. That we welcome, coming from anywhere. And I think Mr. Jack Ma's idea, Alibaba's idea, is what we want. He wants to train Malaysians to produce things to be exported to China.
What is your own view of Belt and Road Initiative? Do you think Malaysia can benefit, or are there risks for Malaysia?
Well, in the first place, I had suggested long ago on improving the Silk Road. You see, when ships had to carry a lot of oil, the ships built were bigger and bigger, almost 500,000 tons, but the train remained the same size. So I wrote a letter to Xi Jinping suggesting that he builds a super train, maybe 1.5 times the size, longer trains that can cross from China right up to Europe, because the technology is now available. And then, of course, he came up with the One Belt, One Road idea, inclusive of the sea route to Europe. Of course, the sea is very important, but I am quite sure that it is not his intention to prevent other ships from passing through the Straits of Malacca and South China Sea. We need to have open passage for all ships, because we trade with all nations, so we need the sea to be open to everybody. I think there should not be too many warships. Warships create tension, and someday somebody might make some mistakes and there will be a fight, some ships will be lost, and there might even be a war. We don't want that. What we want is the seas to be patrolled by small boats, patrol boats, equipped to deal with pirates, not to fight another war.
We have not heard, since the new government came into power, the new government's position on the dispute. Is it different from the Najib government?
Well, in the past, we go by the shelf in the sea, and an area that is less than 200 miles from our shores, facing our shores, belong to us, is our sea. So we find that in that sea there are certain rocks which we have developed into islands, and we hope that we will stay on those islands because it is a part of our keeping the sea safe from pirates and other things. So we want to retain, of course, about 4 or 5 islands that we have occupied. The rest, whoever thinks it is theirs can occupy. But it should be something that if China claims that South China Sea is theirs, but those islands have always been regarded as ours for a long time. So we want to retain that.
People attribute you to having have pulled the Malay vote. That's one. And so going forward for the next election, what do you think Pakatan Harapan has to do in order to maintain and increase Malay vote, and also to stave off the challenge from PAS and a more rejuvenated UMNO?
In the 13th election, Malay votes did not go at all to the opposition. In the 14th election, a certain number, a sufficient number of Malay votes went to the opposition to give them the victory. So there is a swing among the Malays. But the Malays are divided into 3. Urban, very sophisticated people, very liberal people. Suburban, and then rural, deep rural. In the deep rural area, they only go by loyalty to the party. They didn't care about what is happening, and maybe they don't understand what is happening. But the urban area and suburban area, these people know the wrong things done by the government, and they turn against the government. It is their vote which gave us the victory. But the rural vote still needs a lot of explanation to them. They understand high cost of living, but they don't understand $1 trillion, 1 trillion ringgit. What is 1 trillion ringgit? A lot of zeros, 12 zeros. For them, it's not easy for them to understand. So they don't care. They believe that all governments are corrupt anyway. So I would have been very corrupt also when I was in the government. That's their perception of things. So perception is what divides the Malays.
But it's the Tun Mahathir factor. So what can Pakatan Harapan do? You know, they need to look forward, right?
Well, I can't always be popular. One day I will become unpopular, because when you are in the government, you have to do unpopular things. So that is not something permanent. But at the moment, of course, by comparison with my period and Najib's period, they prefer the life that they led during my time.